Victoria Hensley believed her wealth could purchase anything: respect, forgiveness, even the verdict itself. 20 minutes before her hearing, she laughed in the parking garage, telling her assistant, "Municipal court, please. I'll show them how this city really works." She entered Providence Municipal Court on Tuesday morning with a venti latte in one hand and her phone in the other, designer sunglasses still perched on her head. She didn't silence her phone. She didn't toss the coffee when asked. And when the clerk reminded her of courtroom etiquette, Victoria smirked. "Relax, it's community theater, not the Supreme Court." The clerk wrote something quietly on the file. Before you see what happened next, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Case Closed, where arrogance meets accountability and justice always answers back hotter than the coffee you throw at it. At 9:46 a.m., Ms. Paige Lewis, court clerk, called the case. Case number 225-TR5812, City of Providence versus Victoria Hensley. Charges: reckless operation, failure to yield, interference with the police investigation. Victoria Hensley approached the podium, coffee cup in hand. Judge Frank Caprio looked up. "Ms. Hensley, no beverages at the podium. Please set it down on the table behind you." She placed it on the edge of the podium instead, half compliant, performative. "Ms. Hensley, I said the table. It's fine here." The judge's voice didn't rise. "It's not a request, it's a rule." She sighed, picked it up, set it on the defense table loudly. Entitlement was on the record before testimony was. Judge Caprio opened the file. "Ms. Hensley, you're charged with reckless operation on October 18th at the intersection of Westminster and Dorrance. You ran a red light, nearly struck a vehicle occupied by two civilians, and when stopped by Officer Nolan, you allegedly attempted to interfere
With his duties, how do you plead?" "Not guilty." "Obviously, you'll have a chance to explain. Officer Nolan is here to testify. You'll have the opportunity to respond. This should be quick." The judge gestured to the officers standing near the clerk's table. "Officer Daniel Nolan, please approach and be sworn." Officer Nolan, 31, in uniform, walked to the witness stand. Ms. Lewis administered the oath. "Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do." Judge Caprio nodded. "Officer Nolan, tell the court what you observed on October 18th. Nolan consulted his notes. "Your Honor, at approximately 4:27 p.m., I was on patrol at Westminster Endurance. I observed a white Mercedes sedan, Rhode Island plate LXR 492, proceed through a red light at high speed. The vehicle came within 3 feet of striking a blue Honda Civic that had the right-of-way. The Honda driver had to brake hard to avoid collision." "Did you initiate a traffic stop?" "Yes, Your Honor. I activated my lights and pulled the Mercedes over 2 blocks east on Westminster." "What happened when you approached the vehicle?" "The driver, Ms. Hensley, exited the vehicle before I could approach. She was on her phone. I asked her to end the call and return to her vehicle. She told me to wait." "Did she comply?" "After approximately 30 seconds, yes, she ended the call but remained standing outside the vehicle." "What did you say to her?" "I informed her she'd run a red light and nearly caused an accident. I asked for her license and registration." "Did she provide them?" "Eventually, but first she said, 'Do you know who I am?'" Victoria Hensley's voice cut in from the podium. "I didn't
Say that." Judge Caprio raised a hand. "Miss Hensley, you'll have your turn. Officer Nolan, continue." She provided her license. Then she said, "If you make this legal, you'll regret it financially." Direct quote. "Did you perceive that as a threat?" "Yes, Your Honor. It felt like she was implying legal or financial retaliation if I wrote the citation." "What did you do?" "I told her threatening an officer is a separate offense." She said she wasn't threatening, she was clarifying reality. Then she asked how much it would take to make the stop go away. The courtroom stirred. Judge Caprio leaned forward. "She offered you money." "Not directly. She said, 'Officers like you make $40,000 a year. I can make problems disappear. Think about it.'" "What was your response?" I told her I was writing the citation and that any further interference would result in additional charges. She took a photo of my badge number and said her attorney would be in touch. Did she sign the citation? Under protest, then she drove away. Judge Caprio made notes. Officer Nolan, in your 9 years with Providence Police, have you ever accepted money to dismiss a citation? No, Your Honor, never. Has anyone ever offered before? Twice. Both times I added charges. Thank you. Miss Hensley, your turn. Victoria Hensley picked up her coffee cup from the defense table and brought it back to the podium. Judge Caprio's voice was flat. Miss Hensley, I told you no beverages at the podium. It's coffee, Your Honor, not a weapon. It's a rule. Put it back. She set it down on the podium edge again. Same spot as before, Miss Hensley. It's not hurting anyone. Judge Caprio looked at Officer Harris, the bailiff. Officer Harris removed the cup and placed it on the defense table. Harris walked over, picked up the cup, set it behind her. Victoria Hensley's jaw tightened. This is ridiculous. This is decorum. Now respond to Officer Nolan's testimony. She crossed her arms. Officer Nolan has a creative memory. I didn't threaten him. I didn't offer him money. I told him the truth, that I have resources and I won't be bullied by someone having a bad day.
You're saying he fabricated this?
I'm saying officers like to dramatize. It makes their reports sound more important. Did you run the red light? It was yellow when I entered the intersection. Officer Nolan says it was red. Officer Nolan was half a block away. He was close enough to see the Honda Civic nearly hit you. Nearly isn't the same as actually. Miss Hensley, the driver of the Honda is here. Would you like to hear his account? She waved a hand. Sure, let's hear it. Judge Caprio gestured to a man seated in the gallery. Mr. Harold Grant, please approach and be sworn. Harold Grant, 63, gray hair, wearing a work jacket, walked to the stand. Miss Lewis swore him in. Mr. Grant, were you driving the blue Honda Civic on October 18th at Westminster and Dorrance? Yes, Your Honor. My wife was in the passenger seat. Tell the court what happened. We had a green light. I started through the intersection. Suddenly, this white Mercedes came flying through from the left. I slammed on the brakes. My wife screamed. We missed her by maybe 2-3 feet. Did the Mercedes stop? No, sir. She kept going. If Officer Nolan hadn't pulled her over, she would have just disappeared. Did you speak with Miss Hensley after the stop? I tried. I got out of my car and
Walked over. I wanted to make sure she understood how close she came to killing us. What did she say? Harold Grant looked at Victoria Hensley, then back at the judge. She told me to get back in my car. I said she nearly killed my wife. She pulled out her wallet and said, "How much to make you go away?" The courtroom went silent. Judge Caprio set his pen down. She offered you money? Yes, Your Honor. She said, "Name a number. I'll write a check right now." What did you do? I told her I didn't want her money. I wanted her off the road. She laughed and said, "You drive a 10-year-old Civic. You want the money." Victoria Hensley's voice was sharp. That's not what I said. Judge Caprio raised a hand. You'll get your turn. Mr. Grant, what happened next? Officer Nolan told her to stop talking and told me to return to my vehicle. I did. He took my statement. Then he gave me a case number and said I might be called as a witness. And here you are. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Grant. You can step down. Harold Grant returned to his seat. Judge Caprio looked at Victoria Hensley. Miss Hensley, Mr. Grant's testimony corroborates Officer Nolan's. You attempted to use money to silence both of them. That's his interpretation. Two people, same story. This city is addicted to traffic tickets. Everyone knows it. I pay for this courtroom with my taxes, and this is how I'm treated? This courtroom isn't funded by arrogance, Ms. Hensley. It's funded by accountability. I'm being held accountable for trying to keep things civil. You're being held accountable for running a red light, nearly causing a collision, and attempting to obstruct an officer. That's not civil, that's criminal. Accountability entered the record at 9:58 a. Judge Caprio opened a second file. Miss Hensley, I'm looking at your record. This isn't your first traffic violation. Everyone has tickets. Not everyone has a prior incident involving interference. May 20th, 2023. Officer Ramirez cited you for failure to stop at a stop sign. You allegedly offered to settle privately. The charge was later withdrawn. That was resolved. How? Private settlement. Officer Ramirez and I came to an understanding. An understanding? Yes. Meaning you paid him to drop it. Meaning we resolved it without wasting the court's time. Judge Caprio closed the file. Miss Hensley, paying someone to ignore a violation isn't resolution, it's corruption. I was told that case was sealed. It's sealed from the public, not from the bench. And it shows a pattern. You believe money solves problems. Money does solve problems, not legal ones. Your Honor, with respect, I pay more in taxes than most people in this room make in a year. I fund the schools, the roads, the police. So yes, I believe I've earned a little leeway. You can't buy respect, Miss Hensley. You earn it, and you haven't earned any today. She reached back and grabbed her coffee cup from the defense table, brought it to the podium again. Judge Caprio's voice stayed calm. Miss Hensley, I've told you twice, no beverages at the podium. It's coffee, Your Honor, not contraband. I'm not pouring it on your precious paperwork. You're testing boundaries. I'm standing here holding a cup. That's not a crime. It's contempt for holding coffee, for ignoring direct orders from the bench. She lifted the cup, took a sip, stared at him. Miss Hensley, this is your final warning. Put the coffee down or you'll be held in
Contempt. Maybe if you spent less time micromanaging coffee cups and more time understanding how the real world works, we'd all get out of here faster. Judge Caprio leaned back. 5 seconds. 7. 10. 12. That's how long the courtroom watched arrogance test restraint. Then the judge spoke. His voice was still quiet, still level. Power doesn't need to announce itself, Miss Hensley. It just is. She smirked. Maybe yours doesn't, Your Honor. Mine does. She raised the cup. Not to drink, to gesture. And then she threw it. The lid popped off mid-flight. Hot coffee sprayed across the podium, the clerk's table, and the front of the bench. Miss Page Lewis gasped and pushed back from her desk. Coffee dripped onto case files, onto the court seal, onto the judge's robe. The courtroom froze. Judge Frank Caprio did not shout, did not stand, did not react. He looked at Officer Harris. Officer Harris, secure the defendant. Harris moved fast. Within 10 seconds, Victoria Hensley's hands were behind her back. Cuffs clicked into place. She jerked against them. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. I'll have your job. You'll have a cell if you keep talking. Miss Lewis stood, coffee dripping from her sleeve. Your Honor, do you want me to call for backup? No. Officer Harris has it under control. He looked at Victoria Hensley. Her face was red. Her hands were cuffed. Her voice was shaking with rage. Miss Hensley, you've just committed assault on a judicial officer, destruction of court property, and direct criminal contempt. Officer Harris will escort you to holding. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes after I've changed my robe and the clerk has secured the damaged files. This is insane. This is consequence. Officer Harris walked her toward the door. She tried resisting, to twist free. He held firm. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Judge Caprio's voice followed her. No, Miss Hensley, you did that yourself. The door closed behind her.
Privilege ended where the cuffs began. Judge Caprio stood. Court is in recess for 30 minutes. Miss Lewis, please document the damage and photograph the evidence. Officer Harris, Mr. Grant, please remain available. He walked off the bench. The courtroom exhaled. 30 minutes later, the same woman who walked in like she owned the room came back wearing county steel. Judge Caprio returned in a clean robe. Miss Lewis had wiped down the clerk's desk and placed the coffee-stained documents in evidence bags. Officer Harris stood beside Victoria Hensley, who now wore handcuffs in front instead of behind. Standard procedure for court appearances. She looked smaller. The sunglasses were gone. The phone was gone. The coffee was evidence. Judge Caprio sat. Miss Hensley, you've been brought back to address the contempt charge. Before I proceed, do you wish to say anything? Sorry, your robe got wet. The judge didn't blink. Is that genuine or performative? I don't know what you want me to say. The truth would be helpful. The truth is, you embarrassed me in front of a room full of strangers because I held a coffee cup. I gave you multiple opportunities to follow a simple rule. You chose not to. Then you escalated to assault. I threw coffee. I didn't throw a punch. Hot coffee is a weapon. You endangered my clerk, Officer Harris, and the integrity of this proceeding. Integrity? You humiliated me. You mistake humility for weakness, Miss Hensley. The law won't. She said nothing. Judge Caprio opened a notepad. I'm finding you in direct criminal contempt of court. The facts are these. You were ordered 3 times to remove a beverage from the podium. You refused. You were warned that further disobedience would result in contempt. You responded by throwing the beverage at the bench, striking court property and court personnel. I was frustrated. Frustration isn't a defense. What do you want from me? Accountability. Fine. I'm sorry. Can I go now? Judge Caprio shook his head. Ms. Hensley, this court could sentence you to 30 days in custody immediately. Summary contempt allows me to do that without a hearing. But I won't act from ego. I'll act from principle. She stared at him. Here's your sentence. 30 days in custody, suspended. Conditional upon completion of the following 5 days of community service inside this courthouse. You'll assist custodial and clerical staff. No public interaction. You'll mop floors, file documents, and see how this building actually runs. Her mouth opened. You'll also write formal handwritten apologies to Officer Nolan, Mr. Harold Grant, and Ms. Paige Lewis. Not emails, not texts, handwritten letters delivered to this court within 7 days. This is, and you'll pay court costs, which include replacing the files you damaged, cleaning the robe you stained, and compensating Ms. Lewis for her time and dry cleaning. How much? $570. That's insane. That's accountability. If you think the judge was right to stay calm instead of exploding, hit subscribe to Case Closed so more people see what real authority sounds like. Judge Caprio looked at Officer Harris. Officer Harris, Ms. Hensley will be released on her own recognizance pending completion of these terms. If she fails to complete them, the 30-day custody sentence will be activated immediately. Understood, Your Honor. The judge turned back to Victoria Hensley. Ms. Hensley, consequences are not humiliation, they're education. You came into this courtroom believing your money entitled you to special treatment. It doesn't. You believed I would tolerate disrespect because you threatened to make noise. I won't. And you believed throwing coffee would somehow prove a point. It did. It proved you have no understanding of what justice actually costs. She looked down. You'll start your community service Monday morning at 8 a.m. Report to Ms. Lewis. She'll assign your duties. You'll show up on time, dressed appropriately, and you'll do the work without complaint. If you have questions, ask them respectfully. If you have objections, save them for your attorney. Do you understand? Yes, Yes, what? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Caprio nodded. Officer Harris, release her. Harris unlocked the cuffs. Victoria Hensley rubbed her wrists. Judge Caprio looked past her to the courtroom, to Officer Nolan, to Harold Grant, to the people sitting in the gallery who had waited their turn. Before we adjourn, I want to say something to everyone here. When someone disrespects this courtroom, they don't disrespect me. They disrespect every citizen who waits their turn, every officer who takes an oath, every clerk who processes paperwork at midnight because the system is backed up, every person who believes that rules apply equally. He paused. This isn't my courtroom, it's theirs. It belongs to the people who trust it. The moment someone tries to buy their way out of accountability, they insult everyone who can't. And I won't allow that. Not here, not ever. Calm became the loudest voice in the room. Judge Caprio turned to Officer Nolan. Officer Nolan, thank you for your restraint and professionalism. You were threatened, you were insulted, and you did your job anyway. That's what good policing looks like. Thank you, Your Honor. He looked at Harold Grant. Mr. Grant,
Thank you for coming forward. You didn't have to testify. You could have stayed home, but you came because you believed this process mattered. It does, because of people like you. Harold Grant nodded. Judge Caprio looked at Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis, are you all right? Yes, Your Honor, just need a new blouse. Send me the receipt. The court will cover it. Thank you. Judge Caprio picked up his gavel. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. By that evening, the headline was everywhere. Woman throws coffee at Judge Caprio, gets handcuffed 30 seconds later. But the viral moment wasn't the throw. It was the line. Officer Harris, secure the defendant. Calm, cold, controlled. People replayed it, shared it, debated it. Some said he should have jailed her immediately. Others said he showed mercy she didn't deserve. But everyone agreed on one thing. Coffee is hottest when it burns your ego. In his chambers that afternoon, Judge Frank Caprio wrote a single line in his journal. Power is calm. Beneath it, he added, anger incenses the guilty. Calm convicts them. His clerk knocked. Your Honor, do you want me to call a medic? The coffee was hot. You might have a burn. I'm fine. Are you sure, Miss Lewis? I've been disrespected before. I've been yelled at, threatened, even spit on once. But coffee? That's a new one. She smiled. For what it's worth, you didn't flinch. Flinching gives them power. You think she'll actually complete the service? She will. Because if she doesn't, she'll sit in the cell for 30 days. And people like Miss Hensley fear confinement more than they fear humiliation. You really think she'll learn? Judge Caprio looked at the coffee-stained files on his desk. I think she'll remember, and sometimes that's enough. He wrote one more order before leaving that day. A victim notification letter to Harold and his wife, informing them that the case had been resolved, that the defendant had been held accountable, and that their courage mattered. Because justice isn't just what happens in the courtroom, it's what people take home with them. After Victoria Hensley completed her 5 days of community service, she mopped floors, she filed documents, she restocked supplies. And on the 3rd day, Ms. Lewis found her sitting in the hallway during her lunch break, watching people wait for their hearings. You all right? Ms. Lewis asked. Victoria nodded. I didn't realize how many people come through here every day. About 200. And they all wait. Yes, even the ones with money. Especially the ones with money, because money doesn't buy line cuts here. Victoria looked down. I was awful to you. Yes, you were. I'm sorry. Ms. Lewis sat beside her. Apology accepted, but you should know Judge Caprio could have destroyed you. He could have made an example. He could have put you in jail and thrown away the key. He didn't. You know why? Why? Because he's not interested in punishment.
She walked in with confidence and left with a lesson. Victoria Hensley believed money could measure worth, but 6 days later, she learned that respect measures character, not wealth. Her apology letters arrived one by one. Officer Nolan framed his. Harold Grant kept his folded in his wallet. Ms. Lewis placed hers neatly on her desk. And Judge Frank Caprio kept the coffee-stained case file in his chambers, not as a symbol of authority, but as a reminder that every ruling carries a heartbeat, that respect can't be purchased, it's earned, one choice and one apology at a time.
She entered believing power meant privilege. She left understanding that true freedom is humility understood. Would you have sentenced her to the full 30 days? Tell us in the comments below, and share this story so someone else remembers to think before throwing contempt at the bench. Because this wasn't just another case. It was another chapter in the legacy of Judge Frank Caprio, a man who proved that justice doesn't need to be loud to be lasting. If you believe compassion still belongs in the courtroom, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Case Closed, where every real story keeps Judge Caprio's truth alive, that justice without empathy is empty, and respect will always be the highest currency in his courtroom.